I cheated on the kindest soul. There are mistakes in life that haunt you not just for a season, but for years. They fester in quiet moments, in dreams, in the silence of long nights when the only thing you hear is your own guilt whispering back at you. I made one of those mistakes. Back then, I was a 19-year-old girl from Larchmont, Maine, a small coastal town that breathed salt air and whispered secrets through pine trees. My name is Lena. I wasn't a bad person. At least, I didn't think I was. But being young doesn't protect you from the consequences of your decisions. It doesn't shield you from becoming the villain in someone else's story. There were two boys at the time, who unknowingly became the pillars around which I built and destroyed a part of my life. The first was Jonah. He was the kind of guy you'd overlook in a crowded room. Quiet, unassuming, with a gentle voice and tired eyes that looked like they'd seen too much for someone so young. Jonah had a softness about him that most people didn't bother to understand. He volunteered at the animal shelter. He helped his mother take care of his little sister after their father left. He was the kind of guy who remembered your favorite color, not because you told him once, but because he noticed the way you lingered on things when you wore them. He had liked me since we were 16, and for a long time, I pretended not to notice. At first, I didn't take him seriously. I had my eyes on boys with louder voices, stronger arms, bigger reputations. I was shallow, and I say that now without trying to excuse it. I cared about appearances, about how I looked beside someone, about the whispers that followed couples down the hallways at school. But Jonah waited. Not in a pushy, possessive way, he was just there. Consistent. Patient. Present. And eventually, when I'd been through a whirlwind of disappointing guys and empty compliments, I let him in. It started slow. Just texts. Then walks by the lake. I told no one. I was afraid of what people would say. My friends were the kind who ate kindness for breakfast and spit it out like venom. But he made me happy. And isn't that supposed to matter most? We dated in secret for about a month. I was happier than I'd ever been, but the happiness came with a shadow. I couldn't tell anyone. My friends, if that's even what they were, had rules. Rules about who was acceptable to like, to kiss, to post about on Instagram. Jonah didn't meet their standards. He wasn't cool. He wasn't tall enough, or fashionable enough, or mysterious enough to be worthy of someone like me, at least in their eyes. Still, I decided to tell them. I remember the moment clearly. We were sitting in a booth at Rusty's Diner, fries scattered on the table, laughter buzzing around us like flies. I told them I was seeing someone, expecting at least curiosity. When I said his name, the air turned sharp. They laughed. Sneered. Said things like, "He still wears Velcro sneakers, doesn't he?" And, "You're kidding, right?" One even said he gave her the ick. I should have defended him. I should have stood tall and told them to shove their opinions somewhere dark. But I didn't. I smiled awkwardly. Shrugged. Changed the subject. After that, things got complicated. Enter Micah. Micah was everything Jonah wasn't. A college freshman who came back to Larchmont on weekends to visit his folks. He had an Instagram full of shirtless beach pictures, drove a Mustang, and was the kind of guy everyone noticed when he walked into a room. We had mutual acquaintances, and he knew who I was. When he messaged me, my heart raced, but not because I liked him. Because I knew what it meant. He asked me out. And my friends? They were ecstatic. I showed them the message, and suddenly, I was someone again. Someone worth envying. "You have to say yes," they said. Even though they knew about Jonah. They didn't care. And I gave in. I didn't end things with Jonah. I couldn't. I told myself I'd figure it out, that I just needed time. That I'd come clean once I understood what I really wanted. But the truth is, I wanted approval more than I wanted honesty. So I dated them both. Jonah, in secret. Micah, in the spotlight. Micah took me to parties. He kissed me in public. My friends posted us on their stories with winking emojis. Jonah still texted me goodnight every evening and left notes in my locker with little hand-drawn doodles. I was living two lives. I thought I could keep them apart. Jonah didn't have social media. Micah didn't care to ask too many questions. I became a master at crafting excuses, pretending I was busy when I was with the other, switching perfumes so the wrong scent wouldn't linger. But lies rot. Slowly, then all at once. It unraveled on Valentine's Day. Jonah had texted that morning, telling me to expect something sweet. I was at Micah's apartment when I got the message. I ignored it. Later that day, I returned home, tired, anxious, guilty. My parents were out, the house was quiet. I went upstairs, planning to shower away the scent of someone I didn't love. The doorbell rang. I didn't expect to see Jonah on the front step, holding a small white box of chocolates and a single rose, red, wrapped with a trembling hand. His smile was hesitant, but warm. He told me he'd just wanted to do something kind. Then his phone buzzed. I'll never forget the change in his face. He looked down, and whatever light was in his eyes disappeared. He looked up at me, holding the screen. I didn't need to see it. I knew. Someone, probably from school, maybe even one of my friends, had sent him a picture. A photo of me and Micah, wrapped in each other's arms at the Valentine's party, his hand on my waist, my face tucked into his neck. Jonah didn't say anything. He didn't need to. The silence said it all. His hand dropped to the side. The box slipped from his fingers. The rose landed on the step. And I stood there, frozen, ashamed, unable to speak. Then came the tears. Not loud, dramatic sobs. Quiet tears. Painful tears. The kind that sting more than they fall. The kind that made it obvious this wasn't just a crush for him. I had broken something precious. His friend, who had driven him there, called out from the car. I heard footsteps as Jonah walked away. He didn't look back. That night, I sat on my floor with the rose in my hand, petals scattered like pieces of the life I'd shattered. My phone was silent. My friends had moved on to the next drama. Micah didn't even ask what was wrong when I ghosted him the next day. School became unbearable. Jonah didn't talk to me. He passed me in the halls, eyes cast downward. I wanted to say something, anything, but I had no right. No words that could fix what I did. I learned later that Jonah left Larchmont soon after graduation. Joined the army. Disappeared into a life of discipline and distance. I watched his sister post photos of him in uniform on Facebook over the years, and every time, my heart sank. Micah dropped me not long after. Once the novelty wore off, so did his interest. And my friends? They eventually turned on me, as people like that always do. I was no longer interesting. No longer a source of drama. In the end, I was alone. And maybe that's what I needed. It's been 7 years. I'm living in Boston now. I've built a life. I have a career. I've even had relationships. But nothing ever lasted. Every time a good man looks at me with softness in his eyes, I remember Jonah. I remember the rose. The box of chocolates. The betrayal. Some nights, I dream of running into him, on a street corner, in a coffee shop, anywhere. I imagine saying, "I'm sorry. I was stupid. You didn't deserve that." I imagine him smiling and saying he's okay now. That he found someone better. Maybe he has. I hope so. I tell this story not because I want pity. Not because I want forgiveness. But because sometimes, the worst thing you do becomes the most important thing you learn from. And if this keeps even one person from making the same mistake I did, then maybe some small part of Jonah's kindness can still ripple out into the world. Because he was the most kind-hearted man I've ever known. And I let him go.
Honestly, you were young and insecure. It doesn't excuse it, but at least you own up to your mistake now.
No sympathy here. You knowingly hurt someone who genuinely loved you. That kind of betrayal stays forever.
Heartbreaking for Jonah, but I respect the reflection. It takes courage to admit you were the villain.